In Chapter 3, we are exploring career interventions in different settings across K-12, school settings, community settings, and throughout the lifespan. When we're talking about career counseling in different types of settings across the lifespan, the National Career Development Association gives us some guidance in different life stages that might involve career interventions as counselors. These include preschool, elementary, grades 7 through 9 or middle school, grades 10 through 12 or high school, adulthood, and then individuals transitioning into a phase of retirement. So we will briefly talk about each of these different settings in this chapter. As we start talking about the idea of career counseling in school settings, it's important to integrate guidance from the American School Counseling Association, or ASCA. ASCA has a national model that provides guidelines for school counselors to develop and to implement school counseling programming. And within that, there are 3 domains that ASCA promotes that school counselors should focus on. These include academic, wellness, career development, and social emotional development. They further go on to advocate that all school counselor roles and responsibilities should focus on one of these 3 domains. So specifically in the area of career, the ASCA position statement that aligns with these domains in this model, they promote that as part of any school counseling program, school counselors should provide resources and opportunities that help students explore their strengths and interests, as well as career fields that align with these attributes. And it's important to note that ASCA doesn't place a lot of value on the idea of decision-making. ASCA really promotes a strengths-focused approach that really focuses on the idea of interests and different options in career fields that align with interests. So students are not put under a lot of pressure to make a decision. Also in their position statement, ASCA talks about how school counselors should collaborate with their students, families, staff, and the community to make sure that students are aware of all possible options and find a path following high school that leads to them having a productive life and connection to their community, without placing necessarily any judgment on what that choice might be. So this could be going into the military, this could be technical training, or this could be higher education. So it's about working with that student and their support system to find what's going to be right for them at different levels. So let's talk briefly about career counseling in the preschool years. And you might be surprised to hear this because we don't really think about the idea of career when individuals are in preschool. But if you think about it, with younger kids, often we ask them what they want to be when they grow up. And exposure to the idea of career starts very early in life, just like other values and belief systems that start developing in this developmental space. So in the preschool years, in terms of career, we want to practice awareness of the influence that kids have from their home and their family through the things they see and hear. And they start to form opinions very early and values very early as to what is normal and where people belong when it comes to career. So in career counseling, we want to provide exposure to different careers, being aware of lenses and gender stereotypes that might be associated with this. And so thinking about a younger kid who says that they want to be a garbage person because that seems like a really fun career to them, an adult might come back and say, oh, you don't want to do that job. That's not a very good job, placing judgment on something that interests them. But going off of guidance from NCDA, from ASCA, from others who are really focused on this career space, in this developmental time, we really want to focus on encouraging exploration. So we want to look at different interests and careers from a developmentally appropriate lens. So thinking about that idea of I want to be a garbage man, a garbage woman, a garbage person, that probably does seem like a really cool job because they get to ride around on the back of a garbage truck and they get to pick up the trash cans and throw them in the back of the big loud truck and watch the garbage get crushed. And it probably does seem like a pretty cool job to a kid. Now, they may or may not continue that interest through the rest of their developmental process, but they have a long way to go. And putting judgment on their interests pretty early in their developmental period helps integrate those ideas that some jobs are better than others, some careers are better than others, and they might start eliminating options pretty early in life with that type of a structure. So in the preschool years, we want to really encourage the idea of exploration and interests without any kind of judgment. So we really want to support the idea of curiosity and exposure. Looking beyond preschool, ASCA is very clear and very strong in the idea that discussions about career development really need to start in elementary school. And that's because developmentally kids start to eliminate options and develop beliefs and attitudes about themselves as people and about career as early as elementary school. So we need to meet that with support and with career intervention. So according to ASCA guidelines in elementary school, school counselors or individuals working with kids this age in non-school settings really should focus on the idea of transferable skills. So what are age-appropriate skill sets that are going to be universally applicable? Things like expressing yourself, things like being a good friend, things like expressing kindness, curiosity, developing a sense of self-worth. These are skills that are going to be pretty universally applicable across different career fields later in life. And so having a good foundation in these skills is going to be really helpful later on when in middle school and high school we start talking about different options. We want to explore work values and habits, because again, these are forming. And so we want to talk about how individuals are developing attitudes about who should have what types of jobs and what types of jobs are valuable and important. So there are some really great guides in the ASCA set of materials and resources that are linked in the module about how to have conversations about different types of careers in elementary school and across the lifespan. And some options here involve looking at a community and all the different types of jobs that it takes to make a community work, because this places value on all different types of individuals contributing to community, not just those we see or those who make the most money or those that as society we tend to value the most. Another great example is looking at a hospital and how many individuals it takes to make a hospital run. If hospitals were just made up of doctors or nurses, we wouldn't have a functioning hospital. It takes a whole lot of people doing a whole lot of different jobs to be able to make a hospital work. So in that, we can explore and educate about different types of occupations and careers, again, without any expectation that there's decision making here. It's just the idea of exploration and opening up the scope of options as we're exploring. And so that way, individuals in elementary school can start growing awareness of different career options without stereotypes or limitations. And we don't necessarily want to impose the idea of, well, that career is going to take a whole lot of school, or that career is going to be really difficult for you at this stage. We really want to just increase awareness of careers without those types of limitations. So moving into middle school and high school, assuming that there's been a lot of career exploration that's happened in preschool, elementary school, again, pulling from ASCA guidelines and NCDA guidelines, here in middle school, we're going to think about ways to connect individuals with the community, again, to expose to different types of careers that they may not otherwise be exposed to. And this might look like connecting with different after-school activities or volunteering in the community to be exposed to different types of people. And middle school, particularly 6th and 7th grade, is where individuals really start to eliminate options. And so thinking about things like gender and stereotypes and fields that tend to be more skewed in one direction or another, we might specifically encourage that exposure to role models in different types of careers. So thinking about connecting female identifying persons to individuals in STEM-related fields or medical fields, connecting male identifying persons with more caregiver or medical setting occupations, nurses, things like that. So how can we counteract these societal messages that might be eliminating options that would be a really good fit for this person later on? So we want, again, to avoid pressure to make a choice, but we might start talking about how you could make decisions in an informed way. So it's more about how you're going to make a decision when you're ready, as opposed to, I need you to pick something so that we can set you up with resources. And as we get into high school, we want to start considering and preparing for some of these options after high school, leaving a lot of openness for people to change their minds. And again, as we drift into high school, there tends to be a lot of value and judgment and options about things to do after high school. So we need to have equal openness to ideas of pursuing higher education, pursuing technical training, going into apprenticeships, or going straight into the workforce, and then also things like the military, Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, some of these other opportunities that might exist post-high school. So really supporting the individual to make an informed decision as opposed to passing judgment on the type of decision that they might make. Moving beyond high school and thinking about career in higher education settings, your interactions with the idea of career advising or career counseling might come in a couple of different roles. So certainly there are career-specific services in most higher education settings that offer very specific coaching, advising, and counseling related to career needs. Also, to some degree, careers integrated into general counseling and college-based counseling services. And then if your thought is to go into any sort of teaching in a higher education setting, you'll likely have a role of an advisor. And part of that role in advising is considering career needs of the students that you work with. I know this is often a conversation that I have with my students all the time about how to make sure that their work in our program is going to connect them with appropriate needs and give them experiences that's going to help them reach their goals in their career after the program. And so here we really are more focused on a decision-making process, and the National Association of Colleges and Employers has created some competency guidelines for career services. These were published in 2013, and these serve a purpose of offering competencies for individuals in career service specifically, or other individuals in higher education, for example, educators who need various knowledge, skills, and abilities to talk about career in a higher education setting. So the NACE guidelines offer 8 different areas of focus in terms of competencies, and then they've got various labels and tables to talk about different skill sets. So these are linked in your module, and I encourage you to check them out. We're just going to briefly identify them here. So they're domains focused on coaching, counseling, and advising, and they do have a table specific to career counseling. As you look at it, it's going to look very similar to what you learn in your skills courses about how to have a good counseling relationship with a client. We're going to look at brokering, connecting, and linking. So this idea of, particularly as an advisor, how can I connect you with someone who has a similar interest to you or has opportunities that can support you in your career goals, or how can I link you with mentors that are going to help you along the way? Information management. So how do I share information with you, and how do I be knowledgeable about things that are going on in the field? Marketing, promoting, and outreach. So how do I connect with the community? Program, event, and administration. So what kinds of programming do I need to have related to career, especially for career services on higher education campuses? There are often things like career fairs or other types of programming that exist to support students that need to be planned and administered. Research, assessment, and evaluation related to career. Teaching, training, and educating about careers, and then management and administration of career services in general. Looking beyond higher education settings, we might very much interact with the idea of career conversations in the community, and often careers integrated into mental health counseling services. And then we have specific career counselors or individuals who work in related fields that focus on career pretty firmly and exclusively. So NCDA provides these 5 types of individuals that we need to anticipate working with when we are doing career services in the community. So those are individuals who have recently left high school, whether they've graduated or not. Adults with involuntary job loss. So these might be individuals who are laid off at various stages of their career. There are couples that are seeking dual careers or employment or struggling with navigating dual careers within their relationships. Individuals who've experienced some sort of discrimination in the workplace and are seeking support. And then individuals who are in various career transitions, including those who are moving into the realm of retirement. So across these different areas and individuals that we might be serving, it's important to think about providing career assessments, information, and assistance with things like placement, training, job searches, and general counseling, particularly thinking about systemic issues that might be impacting the career picture. And we'll talk a lot about these in the next chapter, but thinking about individuals who lack resources, thinking about things like lacking transportation or lacking knowledge and skills to make a resume, or just different types of resources that would limit options when it comes to career, thinking about things like childcare. Individuals have multiple job responsibilities and are having a difficult time with that. I think we're seeing a lot more of this as career fields shift post-COVID. Lack of reimbursement for counseling services, because if you're working through insurance companies, sometimes career-specific services are not covered by most insurance plans. So sometimes these individuals are more focused in areas like vocational rehabilitation or career development with an organization that's more focused on these needs as opposed to a traditional mental health reimbursement model. To be aware of policies and legislation that interfere with our priorities or limit options for people when it comes to career. And then poor professional perception of career counselors and career guidance, coaching, interventions in general. So individuals may have a really bad experience with someone who calls themselves a coach without appropriate training, and then might not consider talking to a career specialist in the future because of that. So as we're thinking about working with individuals in the community, we have to think about equitable interventions for all persons, and particularly some areas that are a little bit tricky. So thinking about stereotyping, discrimination, and attitudes and values related to the idea of retirement, individuals transitioning from incarceration, particularly those with felonies, as these limit career options and make things really difficult, especially for those in supportive employment or halfway houses, or in any sort of facility that is transitioning them out of prison. There's a lot of restrictions, but also requirements that you have a job, and it can be really challenging. So sometimes we have to be really creative or advocate for someone. Thinking about individuals navigating interpersonal violence and how that can impact their careers, particularly those who are needing to leave home to go to safety, that could definitely impact their careers. Thinking about military personnel who are transitioning out of service and individuals navigating the world with a disability.